Hi, my name is Wayman Jackson, President. Hi, my name is Wayman Jackson, President of Ed.M. At Ed.M, we envision an inventive world where all people have access to the tools they need to fill or create the jobs of the future. Connect with us online at www.edfarm.org or send us an email at hello@edfarm.org. At Ed.Farm, we grow digitally fluent learners.
I am so proud of you. That was absolutely perfect, sir. Let's see here. Samantha Williams is the executive director of Birmingham Promise, an organization that supports and prepares Birmingham City School students to pursue post secondary options that will lead to economic security, mobility, and prosperity. She comes to this role having spent 9 years at Teach for All, a global network focused on expanding educational opportunity around the world. Most recently, she led Tech for All's Global Girls Education Initiative, and previously, she served in New York as the organization's chief of staff and in Johannesburg as the head of its operations in Africa. Before joining Teach for All, Samantha worked for Harvard University, where she managed its partnership with the University of Johannesburg Education Leadership Institute to support the professional development of South African educators. She previously worked in South Africa as a residence director and teacher at the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls and in Atlanta with communities in schools of Georgia. A Daphne, Alabama native, Samantha is a graduate of Georgetown University and has an MA in development studies from the University of the Witwatersrand.
Very close.
You pronounce it.
Witwatersrand.
Oh, Witwatersrand in Johannesburg, and in education, uh, EDM in international education policy from Harvard University. Well, I'll be doggone. That's an impressive, very impressive resume. But before we get to that good stuff, tell me a joke.
Okay. What do you call cheese that does not belong to you?
What?
Nacho cheese.
All right. What computer is a good singer?
I don't know.
Adele.
Yeah.
That was good,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that's a good one.
Well, back to Daphne.
Mhm.
I have some really good friends from Daphne. Well, I won't say really good friends. I will say some really old friends from Daphne that I went to Alabama with. And but however, I have never been to Daphne. First of all, I want to know, who is Daphne? Is that somebody's wife, mom? Who
I
is
have no
Daphne?
idea. It is my cousin's name, but she was named after the place. I don't know.
So next time I see you, I want to know,
That
who is
part.
Daphne?
Okay.
Okay. Then I want to know everything about you. And like, it's so cool that you have taken this whirlwind, like from Daphne all over the world and then back to Birmingham.
Mhm.
Like, I want to know all about
Yeah.
it. And then, but I want to start by saying this. Your something probably went off. Check. Let's make sure everything's good. Everything good. All right. Your your name and your reputation precedes you. We've actually kind of been on a couple of the same emails and whatnot.
Mhm.
I am just, I know we're gonna get to it, but what you're doing is just amazing.
I'm very honored to do it.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And I just wanted to get you here and meet you
Oh, thank you.
and introduce you as I meet you
Mhm.
to the young lady that is taking our children from school to career, if it's a better way of saying it.
Yeah.
So tell me all about you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we started in Daphne. So my family lives in a small part of land. Literally, it's up one, when I was a child, dirt road.
Uh-huh.
Now it's paved, but it's in the middle of Daphne and Fairhope. And so it's called Montrose, but we live in kind of like an unincorporated part of it. And I grew up the street from my mother's mother and my father's mother. They met there in that little street
Hold
in
on. I
Daphne.
gotta interrupt.
Tell
Now,
me.
you are not from Daphne, you from outside of Daphne. Like, you not just country. Like, you the nearest place is Daphne. Like, the nearest big place is Daphne and Fairhope.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
we,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. We grew up.
How many kids were in your schools?
I mean, so Fairhope Schools, was the whole Fairhope system. So I think I graduated with maybe 300 or 400 students
Okay.
from all of Fairhope.
No, but I'm saying, like, in your grade school. We're starting back here. Like, in your grade school,
Yeah.
there had to be, what, 12, 15
No.
kids?
Well, I went to Fairhope from kindergarten all the way up.
Okay. So you
12,
were at the
13
county
years.
school regardless.
All
Yeah,
right.
gotcha.
So we went to school. My dad went to Baldwin County Training School, which was the black school, which is a 5-minute walk from my house. And that was
Yeah.
in Daphne.
Yeah.
And then they went to Fairhope Schools, and his senior year was when Fairhope Schools integrated. My mom went to Fairhope Schools. So
Now,
we went to Fairhope
I
Schools.
don't mean to digress, but
It's
you
okay.
said something.
Mhm.
Is it Daphne or Daphne? Because you say Daphne.
Do I?
Yes.
Daphne. I do. I don't know. Daphne.
But
yeah.
clearly the
That could
locals
just be my,
the locals call it Daphne.
I guess so.
Okay.
I'm gonna call some people afterward and be like, how do y'all say it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. Okay, so let's in grade school, like, were you a nerd?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way. I mean, we lived out in the cut. I have 3 younger sisters.
Okay.
We're from a huge family. My dad was one of 17, I believe. It's either 16, 17, or 18. I think it's 17. And they all lived right there down the street from us. Like, that's where they all grew up. I mean, they came over from Pritchard in Mobile, but that's where they all grew up. And so we lived on a hill in the woods, like minding our business and going to school.
Yeah.
So I was a huge nerd.
Okay.
School gave me my purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You couldn't wait to get to school.
Every day. I did school for my sisters, for my younger sisters. I would stay with my mom and get like vocabulary words and like, Mom, can you create some math problems? And she would help me make all these lessons. And then the summers we would do school and I would teach my sisters.
Now,
I love school.
did you wanted to be a teacher, or
I
that
didn't wanna-
just kind of happened, like
Yeah.
with your siblings? And
I think I wanted to just like control their lives, basically.
basically,
You know, I mean, I wanted to teach them. We also started a club, and we would do projects. We started a newspaper, and I was the editor. I wanted to write. That's what I did. I wrote
Okay.
stories, and so I would get them to write stories too. And when the public library opened, we'd go to the library and actually print out the newsletter. But before we did it by hand. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I just wanted to do stuff with my sisters and like create things for them. So whether it was school, we had a very terrible fake restaurant in the house that just was basically how we ate lunch on the summers. But like,
yeah,
we just had to do something.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in school, did you play in the band? Where it was just straight books?
In school, I was in choir
Okay.
and I was in drama.
Okay.
And so in middle school, I had to choose because I couldn't do choir and drama because of my schedule.
Okay.
And I mean, at that point, I mean, I loved acting and I still acted in high school, but I chose choir. And so I sang from middle school all the way. I sang in college. I sang in Johannesburg for a little while, but I
Okay.
did choir. That
All
was my
right.
thing. My sisters were all in the band. They were all in the color guard. They were all color guard captains. And I
Yeah.
was just cheering.
Now, you went to Georgetown. How did you come to that decision?
Yeah. So for all schools in your junior year, you take the PSAT. And if you do well on that, colleges start sending you information. And my house got flooded because I'm sure they're like, here's this Black girl who did well on this from some place called Fairhope. So I got a lot of information and I wanted to do politics. And I knew from my research, looking at all the pamphlets, that Georgetown
That was a
was
place,
a place to go because Bill Clinton had gone there. And people were like, did Bill Clinton really determine where you went to college? And I was like, it's all I knew. I didn't know anyone who went to Georgetown.
Right.
And so I didn't get a pamphlet from Georgetown. And so I went to the library and did my research and like asked them for information. And then the financial aid process, which connects to what I'm doing now. I mean, it's impossible to understand if your parents didn't go to a 4-year college or didn't go to a selective college. It's impossible. I called Georgetown and asked them, can you tell me how people afford college? Like, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
How do you afford college? And they stayed on the phone with me and walked me through how to apply for financial aid. And then when I got the package, they covered everything because we had so little money that their need-based policy covered everything. So
wow.
I went through 4 years of Georgetown. I think I left with like $7,000 in student loans. And at the time, the total cost was somewhere between $40,000 and $45,000 a year. So if that woman hadn't talked to me on the phone and told me this, how you got to do the FAFSA, you have to do the profile, like it covers books, you'll get this. I mean, it's so confusing.
Yeah.
How does the money come? How do I pay for housing if I don't live on campus? I didn't know any of that. And she told me. And so it was just to me like a very good sign that this was a place where I could be taken care of. That was very foreign to me, to my family. We had no idea how to do something like that. But from the beginning, I kind of felt like they would help me. So I was really glad to get in.
It's God has truly moved in your life.
That is the fact.
Because you're in education. You like teaching. You didn't go down that road. You just delved in it with your family, so that put that there.
Yeah.
God has ordered your steps so that you get a little piece of this and you understand what it means to be on the phone with an admissions director, not knowing anything.
That's right.
And that's just really cool.
Yeah.
That is just really, really cool.
I mean, how I really got involved in the work that I'm doing now was while I was in college, my work study was tutoring. And so I was tutoring in DC public schools. And at the time, DC public schools were in a very challenging spot. Kids were not doing very well at all. And I would go out and tutor kids and see the proximity of the schools to their neighborhoods and understand what the kids were going through, and realize that these kids were probably pretty financially similar to how I'd grown up. And we didn't have any money. There's this newspaper article about my dad's side of the family that they always say we were so poor we couldn't afford the OR, we were just po. And like that's what the newspaper article says.
Right.
Like, that's where I come from.
Right.
And the same could be true for the families, for the kids that I was working with. But because they weren't close to a Fairhope High School, they were not going to make it to a college similar to Georgetown or close. And that was bearing out in their grades and their test scores. And so when I started tutoring those kids, that's when I got put on this path, because I was like, you know what? I kind of assumed that most people could find their way to what I found my way to, because I didn't really see myself as unique. I was like, if I can figure this stuff out, surely it's accessible. And I didn't really think about all of the structural things. I didn't understand structural racism and, disadvantage and the way that cities are structured. And none of that. I mean, I'm from a little hill in between Daphne and Fairhope.
Yeah.
And so I got there and I was like, oh, this is the foundation. If we don't get education right as an equal, absolutely equal right for everyone, a basic option is an excellent education. Your default option when you're born is you'll get an excellent education. If we don't do that, we're never going to get, to equality. We're never going to see the kids that I'm tutoring walking the halls of Georgetown, teaching at Georgetown, or anything close. Like, I don't care what you do when you grow up, but like, it should be your choice. Like, it was my choice. And when I got there and saw that, that's when it flipped. And I knew I was going to study education, work in education, and try to do something about education.
At this point, had you ever been to Birmingham?
I had. Very briefly.
I'm trying to figure out all of the little pieces.
I'm going to tell you how I got back, but because I had...
No, I've just, at this point,
at that point, I'd gone to Birmingham for a Key Club conference.
Okay.
It was in Birmingham.
Okay.
And I wish, back then, it's not like I would have tagged myself on social media. There's no way for me to know where I went in the city. Right. But I wish I knew, because I would wonder, what did I see back then about Birmingham?
Yeah.
I remember thinking Birmingham was cool. And for us, we grew up thinking Birmingham's the big city.
The big city, yeah.
So, it's like, I'm in Birmingham. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, how did Johannesburg come on your radar at all? Like, that's a huge step.
Yes.
Yeah, like that's not just spreading your wings. That's a huge step.
So Georgetown provides funding for students who are there on scholarships or financial aid to study abroad. So it didn't cost me anything to study abroad, and I had never left the country. So because I'd taken some French, look, I'm terrible at French. I was terrible then, I'm terrible now, but I had taken some French. So they sent me to Senegal, to Dakar, Senegal in West Africa. And that was 5 months of just, hold up, I think I'm actually going to work in Africa. Like, I'm still passionate about education. There are education challenges everywhere. I've got to figure this out, because I'm loving being over here and I'm loving being connected to, I was on a slight side note. Like, when I was in Senegal, I went to Guinea for 5 days.
Not a slight side note. Let's go.
It's all part of it. I was walking through the woods. Like, I did this 5-day hike that only a 20-year-old could do, because I would never do it. And we were in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And we're in this, like, basically a jungle, taking this guided tour. And a woman who looked like my grandmother walked up to me and said, "Daughter, hello, daughter." And, she could have been saying it in the way that people are much more likely to greet you as daughter or sister over there, but she looked like my mother's mom. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to have to figure out how to stay over here. I'm going to have to come back.
So
and
beautiful.
So it was, the whole experience was like that. And so when I got back to Georgetown, I was trying to figure out, do I want to stay domestically and work in education here, or do I want to try to go back somewhere on the African continent? And I figured that there would be time to come back, but if I wanted to continue the trajectory I was on working in Africa, I should probably figure this out now.
Yeah.
And there are not a lot of ways for people who don't have their own money to do work abroad right after college, because really you're either doing one of those pay for volunteer things, or you're a skilled person who has real work you can offer. It's 21. All I have is myself. And so I won a Rotary ambassadorial scholarship where they pay for you to do a master's degree, spend a year in any country in the world, basically. And I ended up in South Africa and was supposed to be there for 1 year. That was in 2008. And I moved back to the States for good in 2017. So it wasn't just 1 year.
What were your parents and siblings thinking of during this whole time, and what was their perspective?
You know, it's so funny. I have a younger sister here in Birmingham. She teaches at the Altamont School.
Okay.
And she's hilarious. And we were talking because I'm trying to write some things down now. And she said, I would love to hear more about how you just sort of like moved to Africa. And I was like, do you feel like that's what I did? She said, yeah, because she was 11 or something when I went to Senegal. And then, so she said, yeah, I felt like my sister Samantha just lives in Africa. And that's not how I felt. I felt like I was living in Africa for sure. But I spent a lot of time back home. Everyone, all my friends over there knew how, if you ask any of my friends in Joburg, where's Samantha from? Samantha's from Daphne, Alabama. They all knew it.
Yeah.
I felt very rooted, but my family might have felt like I was out. Wow. But I spent a lot of time. I was very close to my father. He passed away in 2016. And he had encouraged me in 2005 to go to Senegal.
Okay.
My mom was very unsure about taking off. And my dad, who was kind of just like, you like it, I love it, I trust you. He sort of took everyone through like, you know, she's going to do this and it's going to be fine. But then once I moved back, I think everyone just got really used to it. I called my parents a lot and just, I sent them pictures. I sent them things back, just wanting to let them experience where I was.
Yeah.
2 of my 3 sisters were able to visit while I was over there. Like I just really tried to, my life felt very integrated to me, and I tried to bring that to them too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was a big adjustment for just one person, the oldest child, to just be like out.
Now, I've tried to be diligent in respecting the timeline, but I've been dying to get to the point where you meet Oprah. Like, yes. Come on, tell us the good part.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. How did this happen? Like,
I'm getting like starstruck thinking about meeting her. So to earn my Rotary scholarship, the only thing they ask you to do is give speeches at Rotary clubs in your host district. Okay. And so you're supposed to give 10 speeches in my case, Johannesburg. But I love public speaking. So I did 25 of them. I was like, you're giving me a year's paid like scholar. I'll talk to whoever you want. And so I was at a Rotary club, and talking about education, comparing education in South Africa to education in the US. And someone afterwards said, you know, my partner works at the school for girls that Oprah started. Do you want to do a tour? And I was like, I'd love to do a tour. Wow. And when I went, the interim head of the school at that point was a Black American woman named Joy Moore. And she was, I met with her on the tour, and she said, well, are you trying to stay in South Africa? And this was around September, and I had just decided, because their year runs from January to December for school years. So I had just decided that I wanted to stay for that January. I said, yeah. And she said, would you interested in working here? I was like, who are you talking to? Like, are you asking me if I want to work?
Right.
Yes, I want to work here. So I went through the whole process. And in January, I found myself at a retreat with Oprah, a full staff retreat. And the first masterclass was in watching her facilitate. Like what you see on her show and things like that, it is the iceberg of what she offers as a leader. And the first time I met her, I was in line
give me one aspect, like give
of her leadership.
Example. Yeah.
I mean,
the unseen,
if she were all fluff and not substance, then she'd just be a motivational speaker. And at that retreat, there was an interpersonal conflict that had bubbled over, and with her present, and she let it play out as long as it needed to, and then got on that stage and redirected, resolved it, made sense of it, put people in their corners, but also made everyone, I was just like, what did I just witness?
That's what I want.
And that's the kind of thing that's not happening when you're interviewing someone. You can't tell that she is actually a substantive and substantial leader.
Yeah.
That she was amazing. And so, yeah, I was in line for tea, I think the day after that. And the person behind me, I could sort of feel them. And so I said, "Oh, do you want?" And I turned around and it was her. And I was like, "Hi, Oprah." And she like grabbed my name tag and she was like, "Hey, Sammy." And I was like,
she just called me Sammy.
and every time I saw her after that, I never got any more normal. I mean, she complimented my dress at an event once, and I basically wanted, you couldn't take that dress off me. I was like, "This is the Oprah dress." Like, you know, she's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's phenomenal.
And what was that experience at the school like? Because, you know, I sent a few little pennies. That's everybody's school.
That's
you
right.
know what I'm saying? Like,
that is right.
So I would love to just,
you know, the school, all the work that I did got me to one place. And then being at the school and seeing that with the right expectations, and of course, the school, she has a tremendous amount of financial resources she's put into the school. But I think that what's really making that school deliver off the charts for kids is the expectations on every single adult who is there, that they are working with brilliant, powerful girls who deserve everything. If you're not giving everything, this may not be the school for you. So that expectation at baseline, I mean, and the school covered, and this is back from when I was there in 2009 and 2010. But I mean, it just provided for the girls to make sure that they could focus on their education, provided for families, because I mean, as I know, as someone who would often be in a different space than my family was, that if things are going on at home, it makes it hard for you to focus. So they would offer services to the families. It was just everything was focused on making sure that those girls got to be the kind of leaders that brought them to a leadership academy. A beautiful school, intentionally designed. Whenever folks would come and visit me, I'd be like, "Look at the baskets on the wall. Like, Oprah picked those so the girls know that someone thinks you deserve a beautiful place to live and to go to school." And I worked in the residence hall. I was 24 when I got there. And I think the oldest girl was maybe 16 or 17. So I was far out of my depth at first because teenagers will humble you quickly. And so, you know, and these girls are whip smart. So I grew up a lot there.
Yeah.
It was just, you know, when you look back and you're like, that might have been the best time of my life.
Yeah.
That might have been the best time of my life. I hope not. I hope the best is yet to come, but that's pretty special.
That's pretty special. Now, how did you end up coming back?
Yeah. So after I left the Oprah school, I went to Harvard, did a master's degree there because.
So how did that happen? Like, were you applying to come back, or did something, you know, like
Yeah.
how did that happen? How did you start thinking back home to America?
Yeah. And it's
instead
funny,
of staying.
I didn't want to come back home, but I wanted to expand what I was able to do in Africa.
Okay.
So being at the girls' school, I was
it was kind of like you had planned to go back.
And I did go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did the master's at Harvard, and there met a professor who ran a program in South Africa. And so I went to go and see that professor, and the meeting got, you know, postponed. And again, talking about things moving in your life. The meeting got postponed by maybe 5 months. The day I finally got to meet her in her office in Cambridge, she said, "I just got off the phone with the team in South Africa and we need help with research. Do you happen to have experience with research in South Africa?" And I said, "I have a master's degree in development studies, which is a sociology research-based degree." And so the next week I went with her to Joburg and spent the week there. She wrote to all my professors and I was able to go. And then I worked for her for another year before I moved back to South Africa. Because during that year that I worked for her, I was spending most of my time in Boston, Cambridge, and then weeks at a time in South Africa. And the weeks at a time in South Africa were when I was happiest and most alive. And I was like, I got to switch this up. I got to do the South Africa side. So I got that job with Teach for All. And I worked for Teach for All for 9 years, and 5 of those were in South Africa. But what brought me back was 2 real things. One, like I said, my father passed away, and I am very close to my parents. And I say still close because I still feel very close to my dad, and I am extremely close to my mother. And so when that happened with my dad, it took away a lot of who I thought I was, and was like a homing device to, like, I need to be closer to my mom, and my sisters are growing up and I need to be closer to my sisters. So that happened. But then the second thing that happened was I had spent my time at Teach for All working with African social entrepreneurs who were from those countries, taking it upon themselves. Some of them were moving back, some of them had grown up and not left, but they were generating leadership and solutions to their country's challenges. And my work supporting them, it mattered. But at a certain point, I had to look and say, I actually want to do what they're doing in my country. I think my usefulness here might be ending and my usefulness elsewhere, and that's back home in Alabama, might be increasing. And so combined with that and thinking about how at the end of the day, all of us can offer a lot to the entire world. And I want to see people get out there and do things across the entire world. But at the end of the day, it really matters that I'm from Alabama and that I've had all these opportunities, and that Alabama, I came back almost 20 years later. Alabama is not looking different enough from how I left it for me to be happy and for me to think that I can stay away.
Yeah.
And so
we look like Africa.
Listen.
I mean, like, yeah.
The schools in Birmingham, we'll get to all of that. But when I think about history and about segregation here, apartheid there, what's happened to schooling, what's happened to the economic stratification, it's not dissimilar. And so I'm over there looking back and realizing, what do you mean BCS is almost completely segregated from all of the school districts around it? And thinking, wow, maybe I might be more use going home. I took a little route to do it. I went to New York for 2 years. I moved to New Orleans for 2 years because I didn't have people in Alabama doing this type of work that I knew of. I reached out to a couple of friends until I finally got connected to someone who knew that Birmingham Promise was hiring. And so I threw my hat in that ring. But the whole time I was I need to get back to where I'm from, where it's not going as well as I would like. And there are plenty of people, after I left my job at Teach for All, the Africa role, I was very adamant that we hire someone from the continent for whom that level of, these are my people that I will work for until my last, that was there for them. In the way that I thought would be for me until my own father passed away. And I was like, yeah.
You found the one aspect that you didn't bring.
That's right.
And you wanted it, I guess.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I went, I was at a Rotary Club in Hong Kong, actually. I just went to go visit Hong Kong because I'd never been. And I spoke at a Rotary Club there. And the culture there is very family oriented. And when I talked to them about my decision, these really just solemn, kind men came up to me after and they're like, it is time to be with your family. It's time to be with your family. And I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aside from Birmingham Promise, what is your favorite charity?
My favorite nonprofit in Birmingham? That's a good question. I feel like all my friends who run nonprofits are like, what you got to say?
Which one is it?
So a couple. I think that Woodlawn United, and I don't think that any of these orgs like Birmingham Promise are real charities because we're trying to be revolutionary and got a social change. And I think Woodlawn United is really doing that in Woodlawn. I live 5 minutes from Woodlawn and Crestwood. I'm very invested in what they're doing. I think that HICA, they just changed to the Hispanic and Immigrant Community Association, or not sure what the C is, but it used to be the Hispanic Interest Coalition, but now they're focusing on all immigrants across Alabama. They do a ton. I mean, they're providing legal service, economic support, education support, and Alabama has a very rapidly growing immigrant population. At Promise, we're trying to figure out how to better serve them. I think they're pretty awesome. There are lots of amazing nonprofits here.
Well, if you don't answer one of these questions,
okay,
you have to make a donation to your charities.
But Sean's get it wrong.
But they're easy.
Okay.
They're easy.
Okay.
They're going to be easy for you.
Okay.
All right. And if you you haven't been to any, that doesn't count. We won't hold that against you. Okay. Because you're not from here. Regents Park or Rickwood Field?
Regents Park.
Okay. Botanical Gardens or Railroad Park?
I've only ever been to Railroad Park, and I like it. So
Okay. Protective Stadium or Legacy Arena?
Legacy Arena, because Protective is hot. I was out there burning up.
Good. Everybody has their reasons. Crossplex or Legion Field?
Crossplex.
Biggie or Tupac?
Tupac.
Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
Birmingham Zoo or McWane Science Center?
I've never been to either.
Won't hold it against you. Sloss Furnace or Vulcan Park?
Vulcan.
Alabama State or Alabama A&M?
They're both our partners, and they're both fantastic institutions.
Do I get a donation? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we might as well get, since we got a donation for Woodlawn United, let's get one for Hika. Alabama or Auburn?
Alabama.
Oh, she said that easy.
And then realized I shouldn't have. But I was my dad was an Alabama fan. I have an Alabama hat from my childhood because of him.
We are loving your dad.
Yes.
Every time you say something about your father, he becomes more and more endeared.
That's right.
Birmingham Barons or Birmingham Squadron?
Squadron.
Birmingham Legion or Birmingham Stallions?
Stallions.
What's your sign?
Virgo, like Beyonce.
Are you a Beyonce fan, maybe?
Yes.
Now, what is a Virgo? What are the traits?
So perfectionism.
Okay.
I'm not going to refute that.
Okay.
And so very interested in detail, very analytical, just organized, diligent, things like that.
What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Your favorite artist or genre of music?
Her name is Beyonce.
Duh. Your favorite local restaurant?
In a clutch, I always take people to East West.
Okay. Your favorite holiday?
I really love Valentine's Day.
Okay.
I have somehow I've always been single on Valentine's Day, but I'm still out there. I want to have flowers and candy. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. Your favorite season?
Spring.
Okay. Your favorite NBA team?
I've been a Lakers fan for 24 years.
Yeah.
So.
Your favorite NFL team?
I got to go with the Aints, the Saints.
The Aints. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to start cheering for the Aints because of Kool-Aid.
Oh,
but
but
I have been a Aints hater for a long time, so that just goes to show how much I love this Kool-Aid.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? But the funny thing is, I'm starting to, unfortunately, not be able to hate a lot of teams because our kids
are dispersing everywhere.
Yeah, they're going everywhere.
That's right.
But I'll never cheer for Auburn. I don't care who kid it is.
Listen, one of my sisters is an Auburn fan, and we always forget it. So whenever we're out and people are talking, and she says, "I'll go for Auburn," we're always like, "How?
How did that happen?"
When did that happen? My mom started liking them a little bit when Cam was there.
That may have been her formative time.
Maybe.
Your favorite scripture, Bible figure, or Bible story?
Gosh, it's Joshua. Um, gosh, I have it printed. It's the it's something about the Lord goes with you. What's the one? It's Joshua. Is it 1:9?
I'm terrible with
So am I.
the
The Lord
scripture
thy God is with
numbers,
you
but I
wherever
can
you
tell you
shall
what it
go.
says.
That one.
Yeah,
I found
yeah.
it a real comfort because I've gone so many
Yes.
places.
Yes.
It's like a constant.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, drum roll, please.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing, what Birmingham Promise is doing, is no doubt going to be a pilot and followed all over the country. I mean, it just goes without saying. And to this day, I still learn something new about Birmingham Promise every time I have the opportunity to have a conversation about it with someone.
Yeah.
This is a great time, a great, we're at graduation season. We're gearing up for a new school year. Parents are coming in and out of the system. Employers can always come in and out of the system. Just from the top
Mm-hmm.
of the, from the HNIC. From the HNIC.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us the state of Birmingham Promise.
Sure.
And share, like, for example, this year has been for me the whole workforce development piece. I had been so focused on other aspects.
Scholarships, yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That I really just got to understanding it. Tell us the state of it,
yes,
of where we are, and how parents need to, what parts are parents maybe not taking advantage of as they should, and whatever else you can share. Just the floor is yours.
Yeah. I mean, so I think the best way I can put it is we have a pretty huge mandate, which makes me happy though, because that means that we can try a lot of things. And our mandate is to ensure that every child in Birmingham City Schools is put on a pathway towards economic mobility, security, and prosperity. And those are three different and very important things. And it roots our impact at the child level, every child, economic security, mobility, and prosperity. And if you do those things, Birmingham will change. So we talked about how I look around and draw a lot of parallels to my experience in South Africa. We have a very segregated workforce, neighborhood structure, school system, all of those things. The kids who are graduating today, they need to make sure that for their kids, that's not the reality. And that starts by them having economic mobility, security, and prosperity. Mm-hmm. So we aim to do that by, one, ensuring that someone is working alongside them with the counselors and the teachers at school, but someone like us who has resources to back it up in terms of scholarships and things like that, is talking to kids early about what they want to do, what they're passionate about, what they're good at, what the options are, and ensuring that they're on some pathway to success. So for some, it's college. For some, it's a credential or certificate. For some, it's a trade. For some, it's military. For some, it's, doing an apprenticeship straight out of high school, learning under someone who's a master at their work, learning how to do what they do. But all of those things can lead to a really fantastic life for a young person if they know about it. So we're getting out there and understanding what kids need and want. And then we ensure that if that involves college or any type of post-secondary education, that we make sure they don't pay tuition for it. And so kids will still need to find other scholarships and resources to cover housing if they want to go far away or things like that. But the tuition, the academics, the ability to enroll, we pay for that. Mm-hmm. Then, like you were saying, there's a whole other side of the house, which is, what if your pathway does not mean enrolling in a 2 or 4 year institution right now? We have a work-based learning team that operates a couple of different programs. And one of those, which is probably why it's more in the news now, we just won one of the governor's awards for the state workforce programs. And so that was a big deal for us because our internship program being recognized like that is a big source of validation. And we provide kids with $15 an hour to work while they're in school. So they get to leave a school building, go out into the community and work somewhere, learn from mentors, learn from their supervisors, contribute, and then they go back to school. And that is meant to provide connections to future jobs, but also just to adults who can help them navigate whatever is to come next. And so, I mean, there's one of the interns working out of our office because AL.com is virtual. And I was just trying to count his bylines to write something about his success. And I stopped at 24. I mean, and this is a high school student who's written more than 24 good, substantial articles for AL.com. And so we want to make sure that this business community knows that our kids have talent, energy, they bring in new things, and they're ready to learn and eventually to be hired or to create their own businesses or organizations. Like, we're not just trying to slide everybody into workforce working for, a place, but for people to really just drive their own careers, the same thing that you and I want, same thing anyone wants.
This is in trying to explain the importance, the sheer real importance to people of Birmingham Promise. It is, in my opinion, what we criticize and or what we say isn't out there. Meaning, all right, in high school, we talk about these kids need to be learning financial independence and this and that and the other. Like Birmingham Promise, what were the three things you said again?
Economic mobility, security, and prosperity.
That's selfish for a business. Like, as a business owner, as business owners, as employers, the investments in Birmingham Promise are selfish ones because
Absolutely.
they need a workforce that is skilled,
yes,
or educated or whatever. Like, this is not philanthropy.
Mm-mm.
This is selfish. This is what it looks like when the business community, when our citizens understand how important it is to have a skilled workforce and how that lifts the entire city.
Right. Try doing it without it. I just don't know what people think. And I'm in a lot of conversations that are about how to get talent from outside of Birmingham, and any city, any place needs, and a good influx of people coming in is great. But 1,100 kids are about to graduate at the Crossplex in 2 weeks. If your plan for growth doesn't consider getting many or most of those kids back into your companies, what's your plan for how this place grows and how it gets better and stronger? So I always try to tell people, and they're like, well, what's at stake? Everything. And I do think that what makes Promise special is that we have taken on every single kid. So for our scholarship, there's no GPA requirement. There's no essay. There's no ACT requirement. It's you and your goals, submitting this application, and then getting into a college. We want to see everybody win. And so we're out there putting ourselves on the line, asking employers to hire students, asking individuals and companies to donate and to, put into this pot that goes right back to kids and comes right back to you in the form of really smart, well-educated, well-trained folks who are excited about Birmingham and don't feel like Birmingham's turned its back on them.
Yeah. Yeah. What do people get wrong about Birmingham Promise? What, what's the word I'm looking for? Dispelling rumors and all those kinds of things, myths. Because from where I sit, a lot of the complaints that I hear about the deficiencies in our infrastructure, if you will, as it relates to kids, I think is being met through Birmingham Promise. So I can only imagine there has to be like, look, you guys, this is going on here and we really need you to know it.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of different things. Like some people don't even know that any scholarships have gone out. You know, I heard someone say, like, are any kids even getting a scholarship? Almost 1,300 kids have received a scholarship so far.
1,300.
Yeah.
That's
282
wonderful.
interns in the past 4 years. So it's a lot of kids. It's kids you know, whoever's out there. It's kids you know. We send a lot of kids to HBCUs. We send a lot of kids to Alabama State, A&M, and Lawson State here in Birmingham. I think that's a misconception. We are very proud of the kids we send everywhere, Alabama, Auburn. Kids are doing well there, but we're not limiting students on where they want to go. And it's any public institution in the state of Alabama. We've got a good group of students who are down in Mobile at South Alabama who are doing great. We've got kids at Troy. So I think that's a misunderstanding that it's limited. You know, you can be very happy here at UAB. You can go somewhere else.
I was just about to say, didn't the first graduate come out of UAB like last year? How are things going with her?
I mean, we can swing by Regions and ask her because that's where she works. I mean, she's killing it. And I mean, she's a perfect example, right, of the misunderstandings that people have about BCS students. Destiny did a lot of this on her own. Like she's fulfilling her own promise, you know, like she was part of Jones Valley Teaching Farm. She did early college at Woodlawn, and then she went to UAB and just, I mean, knocked out all of her classes in a way. I don't know how she did it. And now she is gainfully employed at Regions, probably like leaving bodies in her wake just about how great she is.
Right.
And she's not alone, right? There are so many other students there like her, but she flew through that at UAB. And then at the same time, we had 2 students at Alabama graduate early as well. They graduated in 3 years from Alabama.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, they're killing it.
Yeah. What's next?
So it's hard to believe that this August will mark 5 years from when Promise was established. So we have this May, we're celebrating the students who are graduating from that first class.
I thought it was 6, but yeah, 5. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, don't put too many. Only 5.
Well, I, you know, for obvious reasons, it's like Randall's been there 6, so yeah, 5.
Right.
Yeah.
5 good years. We're celebrating the students who are starting to graduate this May. More of them will graduate next May. And so from here on out, we're just in how do we deliver the second part of our vision, which is actual prosperity for those kids that we sent through to college and into the workforce. We are growing what we do for students who want to enter the workforce. We're piloting something this year for students who graduate and don't have a plan for college or for military. Well, how can we help them navigate the workforce so that they end up being in control of their lives and not, imposed upon? We're celebrating our 5-year anniversary in August. I'll be happy to send you more details as that takes shape.
Please
because
do.
We're super excited.
Yeah.
And we want to try to get our scholarship program to exist for generations to come. And so in the coming years, you're going to see us, thinking about how do we get the whole community behind building out a scholarship fund that outlasts my time at Promise, outlasts anything. So we're trying to build for the future. I've got everyone thinking about what does the future look like if Birmingham Promise wins? What does Birmingham look like? What's happening with our students? What's happening in our institutions and our high schools? What does it all look like? And trying to build around that vision.
Before I let you go, I just got a quick selfish question. Are kids going into the military like they used to?
I don't know if it's like they used to. We go, our team, 2 members of our team were at an honors and awards ceremony at Huffman this morning. They go around to all the schools. And when I go, I still see students accepting military offers. So for sure, I don't know if it's in the same pace as in the past, but they're still definitely going.
I kept you here a little long, but I was just your story is just so incredible.
No, I've really enjoyed this.
I'm glad.
It's nice to talk to you.
I want you to come back. I want you to keep us abreast At some point, I'm going to seriously engage with Birmingham Promise. I just got to figure out how, when.
We can help you.
I'm sure. And I really thank you for coming, and I just enjoyed meeting you.
Same. Very much.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me so much.
I want to thank you all for watching and listening. And as always, a huge shout out to Creed 63 and URBANHAM.com. God bless.
This podcast has been brought to you by Jefferson County Sheriff's Office.